Hi, I'm Garmbreak1, and this is Midgardia's Cool Crowdfunding Show. I'm here today with Andrew Harris. How's it going?
Hey, pretty good. I appreciate you having me.
I'm glad to have you here. So you're here to tell us about the Guild Chronicles. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is a project I've been working on for the better part of a decade. I'm going to be bringing it to Kickstarter this year. Very soon, coming up in March and April, we're going to have it up on Kickstarter. And it's a tabletop role-playing game that has been designed from the beginning to really focus on like collaboration and dynamic play. I've been using this I run like social emotional groups, and I've been using it for about 10 years in my therapeutic and educational practice. And yeah, now I'm just excited to kind of bring the game to everybody and make it accessible.
Nice, nice. So what makes Guild Chronicles special?
So I think there are like three major things that kind of make it different and stand out. So one thing, when I started playing games, I grew up with D&D like a lot of people did, and one of the mechanics that really bothered me is I'd roll a d20, and sometimes like 3 or 4 turns in a row, I'm just rolling ones, twos, threes, nothing's happening, my turns are going nowhere. So in Guild Chronicles, I wanted to kind of, I don't know, I see like that's like a linear curve. I wanted to kind of have like a nice bell curve. So we're always rolling 2 dice in Guild Chronicles, no matter what you're doing. You're kind of going to get a much more median range on that. So a lot less frustration, which I think is really good. The second thing that makes the game different is it's got the weapons really make a big gameplay impact. So in D&D, and this is another example from my youth, you pick up a weapon, maybe it does a little less damage, a little more damage, maybe it's got an increased critical hit range, but not a big change. Um, Switching a weapon in Guild Chronicles totally changes your attacks. Every time you make an attack, you're combining something from a class power and something from a weapon power, and those things together are going to make up your attack. So it can really be fun to switch weapons and switch roles as you do that, and kind of think outside the box and come up with some weird trope breakers like wand warriors and things like that. And then lastly, I really did design it from the beginning to encourage and really overvalue collaborative play. So the example I usually give is a power might give you like a +1 or a +2 to your own attacks, but another power balanced to be on the same level with it might give you a +1 or +2 to your whole group's attacks. So there's all these little ways that if you're really thinking more about the group and less about yourself, your whole team is gonna benefit from that. So it kind of breaks that mold of like I can just like sit in my basement and power game and like come up with like my own best character. You really got to like work together and come up with stuff with your whole team to kind of make dynamic characters.
I like that. That's rad.
Cool, I appreciate that.
I also really like the weapons thing because man, that is an issue.
Right? Hey, have you ever Guild Wars 2? That's
Yes.
one.
Way back in
Yes.
the
So
day.
that like right, I played it right when it came out, not much more than that, but I was just blown away that like my ranger could equip like a staff and all of a sudden have 5 different primary moves that I could call from. And I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. This is dynamic. And I kind of worked that into the game. I think it's a fun way to be.
Yeah, I did shield and pistol engineer back when I played.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Which is just like inherently kind of a goofy looking combination, but hey, um,
But that's it, right? Like I think if you can trust that a game is going to let you break tropes and like come up with weird ideas and that they can work, I think that's a really fun game to play. You don't feel like you're kind of stuck in a rut building the same thing every time.
yeah, absolutely. So, how how does the fantasy world of Verdun, the setting of Guild Chronicles, compare to ye average fantasy world?
Yeah. Well, I did want it to feel like I wanted players to feel like they were in ye old fantasy world, at least to some degree. Like I wanted sort of those, I don't know, those tropes that people do get excited about. I wanted them to be there. The main difference is that Veriden, the physical world, is like set at the intersection of 3 different planes. So in some settings, planes kind of have like distinct borders, and you have to like open a gate, or maybe you can travel along a very special road to get to a different plane. In Veriden, they just intersect. There's sort of like these natural planar boundaries that exist all over the world, and where they intersect, they create these little like weird magical biomes. So you might have an intersection where there's like plains of like fire and obsidian because it's right next to like an elemental fire area. So these 3 different planes are called the Umbra. This is, I think, the most exciting and unique one. The Umbra has spirits of emotion that live there. So a spirit of fear, for example, might live in the Umbra, and a person that's very scared might attract that spirit, allowing it to kind of cross over into Verden. And then that spirit would be fueled by the fear of that person, and also could inspire fear nearby or fuel more fear into that person. So the sort of idea that the spirit world of the Umbra and the mortal world of Verden can kind of interact is really interesting. And when I play the game in my therapeutic practice, it really lets us explore topics related to emotions. So if you might beat up that spirit of sadness or fear and make it go away, but it's going to keep coming back until you've really addressed the underlying emotional thing. So the
Right.
Umbra is one plane. The second plane is the wild, and this is sort of like all of like elemental energy, like big plants, like everything's like supercharged with energy. And then the other plane is the dream, where it's just sort of like anything sort of like that you can imagine can exist there. If you ever played games like Changing the Dreaming back in the day, those are, I think that's very influential in my thinking. And I definitely think the dream is this sort of like magical, wondrous place with all sorts of possibility.
Right on, right on. You've mentioned the emotional practice stuff a couple of times. Can you tell me how that like what that means and how that has influenced the design of the game?
Yeah. So it's really been influential from the beginning. So the game started. I was working in the elementary school at the time. I was hanging out with a fourth grader that really wanted to into the like D and stuff like that. He was smart enough to play it. He could read a 300-page book and figure it out, but none of his peers were. So I set out to like build a game for him. Was the initial idea, just like let's play together, build a game for him and his friends. And then over time, I realized there was an area in gaming that wasn't really addressed yet. I wanted to create a game that really encouraged collaboration. So I started building the game and the world, thinking about how can I use a game to foster growth. So when I play in my therapeutic practice with folks, I'm identifying themes that they might want to work on. So maybe they want to work on their own self-advocacy skills, or maybe they want to work on their sort of in-the-moment reflective ability. So I'm working those themes into the story. So if someone wants to work on their advocacy skills, let's say they just came out, they're starting to use new pronouns with their peers, with their family, but it's really hard for them to correct people or step up and do that. We can weave that into the game, right? So we can create situations where they meet an NPC that's like having that same problem, or they might want to face it head on, and their character needs to advocate for it, but in a safe space around the table with the peers that they know and love. So I think that's from the beginning really has been a big part of it. I also think tabletop RPGs really are just a fantastic way to build confidence, build social skills, connect with people. That's kind of where most of my friends and most of my social skills came from in my youth. So I just think it's a natural, fun way to be. And it really lets you focus on like strengths and really lets you focus on areas that people are passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when I was looking for my first jobs and stuff, I put dungeon mastering experience on my resume because I
Heck
was
yeah.
experienced in wrangling people and like, handling multiple things at once, and like that
Yeah.
actually did get me my first job. So,
Yeah, no, you're that notion that like trying to all the things you need to do to think about keeping the group together. You're trying to make it fun for everybody. You're trying to like tap into people's strengths and interests as much as you can, and doing that really well is incredibly hard. I'm actually training a handful of my interns that have been working for me. I'm training them up to become their own storytellers for Guild Chronicles. So my hope is that they'll be able to kind of go into schools or go into private practice therapy and work along with educators or therapists and sort of act as the storyteller, the facilitator of the game, while a sort of educational or therapy professional is there kind of acting as they're thinking about the sort of the minds of the people at the table at the same time.
yeah, because those are two hard things to juggle.
Yeah, I try to do both at the same time, but I find I drop one of them occasionally.
So what's the target age range for Guild Chronicles?
Yeah, so I initially wanted to make it like a simple game, and then I quickly got bored, and the folks I was playing with in their adolescence were growing up to be young adults. So the game has kind of matured. I think it's probably accessible to most people like 14 and older. I would say it's a pretty accessible amount of rules. I like to say it's easier to learn than D&D. Like it's faster to make a character, but it's just as complex at the high end of it. So there's no skill cap to the game from that perspective. I'm working. I have a 6-year-old daughter, so I'm working with her and creating like a parallel system for like really like kid-friendly rules. That's just pared down numbers, pared down stuff like that, but can kind of play alongside it, which is really exciting because she and I have an active game that we're playing most weekends as well already.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and there's a few games out there that are good for like, very young children. Like I have Tales of Equestria, the My Little Pony RPG on my shelf. Um
Yes, I got that too.
it's shockingly
Have
good.
you seen shockingly good? Have you seen Magical Kitties Save the Day?
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't had the chance to play it.
I think it's my favorite 6+ RPG. It's got great art. It's got cats, which my daughter's obsessed with. So yeah, it just kind of hits all the good happy 6-year-old notes very well, and it's a compelling game. It's pretty well made.
Awesome. So there's one other topic that I want to talk about, and that is the nothing about us without us slogan or section on the website. Can you tell me a little bit about what that's about?
Yeah. So again, from the beginning, this was kind of a project that the two parallel tracks. Like, let's make a great game and let's build a game that's sort of really good for facilitating learning. Um, I from the beginning, I did not want to fall into the trap of only working with like a bunch of therapists and parents and creating a game that really like, oh, we know all about autism and we're gonna fix everybody. I don't see it that way at all. I really see the game as an opportunity for people to work on any skill they want to, diagnosis neutral. So to guard myself against that sort of like perception that might be how I'm coming into this, I really from the beginning have said, the people that I'm running groups with are my collaborators. So they've made the game better. The game's gone through probably about a dozen different iterations of changes. And the contributions from the community have really, really, really pushed that forward. When I started my own company this year, when I quit my day job to kind of make this a full-time gig, I decided I was going to bring on interns. So the folks that are working with me are people that have come up and played the game, maybe for as long as like 7-8 years with me. So they know it inside and out, but now I'm sort of saying, like, how do you want to see it grow? How do you want to see it move forward? So I've got a couple of folks that are working with me 12, 20, 25 hours a week. And I'm hoping with the Kickstarter that I can bring some of these folks on as part-time staff. If it goes big enough, I'd love to have some full-time staff really hit the ground running, really bring more books to the market faster, bring more lore to the market faster. But no, fundamentally, it's just really important to me. I identify as neurodivergent. Don't have a diagnosis, but I'm seeking one. And I think having neurodivergent minds working on the project are bringing in new perspectives, really making the project richer, more unique, more out of the box. And then I think they're really making it appeal to folks that are going to want to play this game in a therapeutic or educational setting, even more so. So I don't know, it's been really, really important, and it will continue to be so that we're hiring neurodivergent people and really kind of trying to maintain as much of that perspective and much of that energy as we can.
Right on, right on. And yeah, that makes sense. Like there's no point in building a technically very proficient product if then nobody's going to actually play it or it doesn't actually meet the needs of the community.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really meant to be both of those things. We're going to be starting up like a nonprofit wing of the company soon. Trying to well, I think one part I really want to do is I want to have like an advisory council made up of mostly autistic folks who are kind of trying to drive the program and kind of giving me insight into like the direction they want the company to be going. Also, I want to have a way to kind of fund folks that can't afford to play play in my therapeutic groups. I'd love to have a way to kind of gather resources for them so that they can have scholarships and things like that. So that's an in the pipeline thing. Hopefully before the Kickstarter, we can get that paperwork taken care of. But yeah, again, still looking for as much community input as possible in all of these ventures.
Right on, right on. Are there any other elements of Guild Chronicles that you'd like to talk about while we're here?
Let me think. I think I'm trying to weave in a number of themes to the lore, and I think that's I'm trying to make like a socially conscious game. I'm trying to make a game that sort of is expressing acceptance and expressing like the importance of diversity. So Then this again, I've got lots of diverse interns helping me with the content and the world building that's going on, and it's just the main theme that we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of suffuse the lore with diverse characters, stories that people can connect to. So themes of environmentalism come into, like, when we talk about the magic of the world. There's like nice parallels to environmentalism. I'm non-binary myself. We feature non-binary characters in lots of the stories, but without them just being like that's all there is about them. Like, oh, they're the sort of token non-binary character. The demo that we're producing has a non-binary suspect in this crime, but they're kind of scapegoated not because they're non-binary. They're scapegoated because they're just an outsider in general. And just finding ways to kind of weave themes like this, and so people, when they look at the lore, they say, "Oh, I kind of see myself here." Like, "Oh, I get how, like, I fit into this world." Is really important. I think I'm always thinking about the impact, the community that it could build, and how people will sort of see it and make sense of it. So I think that's a big thing. Is I'm trying to work some socially conscious themes into the story, to kind of make people that are playing it feel like they belong.
Right on, right on. Well, I think that wraps up all my questions. Um, yeah, it looks really
I
cool,
appreciate it so much. No, thank you.
and yeah, I'm looking forward to trying this out at some point in the future. Yeah,
Awesome. We're going to be, the website is guildchronicles.com. We're going to be putting up all the information for the Kickstarter when it goes live soon. The demo is going to be available very soon. So I will keep you up to date. Maybe we can add some links to the YouTube comments afterwards. But
absolutely.
yeah, no, I really appreciate this, Garm. This is so cool.
Yeah. When is the Kickstarter slated to go up?
It's going to go up the last week of March. It's going to coincide with PAX East down here in the Boston area.
Right.
I'll be there. I'll be running demos at PAX East, and hopefully getting people excited to play the game.
Right on, right on. And yeah, there'll be a link to the website and eventually the Kickstarter in the comments below. So go take a look at that, and yeah, look forward to when the Kickstarter starts. Andrew, it's
Awesome.
been great having you.
Thank you so much, Carm. Have a great day.
You too. Night, everybody.